I haven't even tried it yet, so you're going to find out when I find out if it actually will work. Not even close. Hey, what's up guys? Sean here. So Sarah and I have a trip coming up to Georgia Bushcraft, and then after that we're going to be going on an extended vacation up into the mountains, and we're going to be shooting a few videos, and so we're going to be camping up there. And if you guys watched our last video, I'll link it up here, of us camping in the mountains. We used my tarp setup, my overlanding setup, which is nice. I enjoy that, but it needed a little more privacy for Sarah. So she wanted a place that she could easily change clothes and things like that. And it's not so easy to change clothes in the back of the car, obviously. So that being said, Sarah ordered us a tent that goes off of the back of the SUV. And we set it up the other day, and all joking aside, you could hold a small wedding in this thing. It's definitely not small, but it's gonna work great for what we need. And I thought today I would show it to you. We'll set it up, and I want to try to see if my hitch mounted hammock thing will fit up under it. So should be a good little video. Let's get it. Alright, so when I said that this thing was not small, I'm not joking. Oh, this is it. It's in this great big bag here. But the other day when Sarah and I put it back in the bag, we didn't fold anything. We stuffed it in there just like a stuff sack, and it's easily big enough to do it that way, which is actually really nice. The thing weighs like 27 or 28 pounds, so it's definitely not light. But we're going to go ahead and get this thing set up, and I'll let you see what it looks like. Alright. The thing is definitely not light. But it's actually enormous. And I think it's going to work out really good for us. To kind of explain to you how big it is, the thing came with 27 stakes to stake it out with. So the other day I set it up with Sarah. Today I'm going to try to set it up by myself. We'll just see how it goes. Alright, so like I said, we just stuffed this thing in there just like a stuff sack the other day. The first setup, I will say this, the first setup was a bear. So Sarah and I, it took a little bit for us to figure out which end went where. And so that was a little tough. But what we figured out was this thing only has straps on one end of it that hook to the car. So that makes it a little easier to figure out. So I do have straps down here. And let's see. Yeah, it is still, it's not the easiest thing to figure out. So I'm gonna spread this thing out a little bit and actually get a little better idea on how this thing sets up. Where's my tarp? All right, so the other thing that I remember now that I should have been looking for is the part that goes over the back of the car has elastic in it. Makes sense, right? So now I know that this is the part that goes to the car. Makes it a lot more easy to orient it now. Telling you guys, this thing is huge, enormous even. All right, strap. And strap. All right, so what this thing does is it has straps on it that strap around the headrest, and then that part with the elastic in it goes across the top of the car, and so it makes it pretty easy to set up. And then it has plenty of adjustment here to be able to pull it tight and, you know, put it a little further up on the car if you want it to or whatever. But we're going to start there. Now another thing is, this thing comes with a huge assortment of poles. Once you figure it out, it's pretty hard to get them messed up. First up, we're going to put our spreader poles together. Now these are a smaller size, and these are fiberglass compared to the steel poles that hold the uprights. So it's kind of hard to get those put in the wrong place. Also, this thing, the way it is designed, you can only put these in the crossbars across the top, and these are too small to fit in the uprights, so kind of hard to mess that up. Now it's got 2 of these crossbars and 4 of the upright poles that we'll put together, but it also has some poles to stake out awnings. So once we start setting up the other poles, I'll kind of show you those. But yeah, it's actually pretty simple once you kind of get it figured out. It's sort of Sean-proof, and which is a good thing, because I can have a tendency to make things a little more difficult than they have to be. All right, so yeah, we are farm country out here, so there is donkeys and horses and stuff out there. Kids riding around on the quad in the background, so you'll probably hear those noises. But that's one of my favorite things about living out in the country like that. So let's get our uprights put together and stand it up. All right, so like I said, the uprights and the awning poles are hard to mix up. The awning poles have this little stub out piece on the top of them, and your uprights don't. There's a little key that pops into the bottom of this, on the bottom of the tarp, and holds it in there. So pretty hard to mix these up. All right, so on the top of this tarp, it already has this adapter attached to it, and it's got a little piece of shock cord attached to it, so it makes it a little easier to set up. Now, the nice thing about this is because this crossbar and the uprights are different dimensions, this thing has, I don't know if you can even see that, but this one has some pieces in there that make it smaller to fit this, where this one is just a hollow tube and fits the uprights. So makes it, like I said, this is kind of Sean proof, so you can't really mess this thing up once you get it figured out. Let's go ahead and get the uprights put together and we'll stand this thing up. Alright, so here's that little key I was talking about. So this thing comes with a tab to hold on to. We'll pull that tab, put that key up in there, voila. Just like that. So I was not joking at all when I said that this thing came with 27 stakes. And the breeze is starting to pick up, so we might need them just to see how this thing's gonna look. But that's has a bunch of stakes. One thing I will say is they are not your typical little cheesy shepherd hook stakes. They are shepherd hooks, but these things are pretty doggone thick. I think these will probably be okay as long as it's got pretty hard ground that these are going to hold in. One thing that I will say is what I'm going to do before we go is I'm going to take my grinder to all these tips and sharpen them a little bit, so makes it just a little easier. And I typically don't carry one, but I think I might get a rubber mallet for driving these in the ground. So now we've got our uprights on and our crossbars on. This thing is pretty much holding itself up right now. I would suggest, if you get one of these, starting at the car to stake this thing out. So you start the car, get that thing pulled down tight, and then start moving your way to the back. The other thing that you need to do is that I learned the other day when we set it up, is make sure this thing is centered off of the back of the car, because if you don't, it's going to make this door tight to the car, and it just makes it a little less convenient. So not a huge deal, but because I'm going to try to set my hammock up in there, I definitely want as much inner space as I can get. So I'll center this thing up off of the back, and then I'll start staking this thing out. Alright, so as you can see, I've got it pretty well staked out, and I did stake out my tie outs in the back there. Last thing we got to do is set up the end down there, pull it out tight, and then we'll go inside, take a look at it, and then we're going to see if that hitch mounted hammock system will work in this thing. Alright, so pretty much got the thing set up. I'm going to go ahead and lift this awning, and I'll show you how that thing works. There's an awning here and one on either side, and then there's actually a door up there that you can just open if you want to go in and out the little door area. One of the things that's frustrating about this system, and I'll go into what it is and all that stuff, and I'll throw a link in the description down there if you're interested in checking it out yourself. and that is a affiliate link. So if you buy it, we'll get a little something out of it. Not much, but a little. But one of the things that frustrates me about this setup is it's like there's nothing you can do to get it fully taut. And that whole bagging just drives me bananas. I know it's probably not the end of the world. The top is tight, and that's what really matters. It just irks me. And so take that how you will. Like I said, I'm not trying to sell you anything. This is just what we're going to be using on our trip up there and seeing how well it works. So let's go ahead and get this awning set up, because I want to try that hammock out and see if it's going to fit in there. Alright, so it has zippers here and Velcro. It has the outer and a mesh inner, so that's pretty nice. All right. Now, remember when I told you that the awning poles have this little stakeout thing on the top of it? That's because they have these little brass grommets on them. And this goes through there. You pull it and stake it out. It also has a little hook on there. Don't know what that's for yet. I'm going to put just a little bowline here to drop around the top. I'll drop that around the top like that. And then I wonder if that's what this hook is for, to run your line through. I don't trust that. So it does have these little, if I can get it, these little line tensioners on it. These are actually working pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and use them. I don't like the little plastic ones. They're cheesy, but these are little aluminum line tensioners, and they seem to be pretty good. I have almost gotten myself too close to the fence here. I may actually have gotten too close to the fence on the other side, but you'll see. Alright, so there you go, awning deployed. So like I said, it's got awnings on two other sides. Now they only send you enough poles to put up 2 awnings at a time. So you could go and get the green elephant poles or whatever and make another set if you wanted to. But honestly, 2 awnings is probably plenty. You could do one on either side, or one on the side, one on the end. But the other thing, and I know I'm nitpicking here, the other thing that I see an issue with is the fact that this is going to pool on top of it. So if you've got some heavy rain, this thing's going to pool. So what I would do probably is just take one corner of it, pull it down on an angle. Maybe not even use the pole, just pull it down on an angle. That way the rain would hit it and just run off the side of it. Not really a huge deal. It's just another one of those things that kind of pop out in my mind that this could be an issue. So let's go inside it real quick. I'll show you how big it is in here, and then we'll get that hitch mounted hammock set up together and put it on the car here and see how it works. The zippers feel nice and smooth. They are not YKK zippers, but they do feel nice and smooth. All right. Now, this thing is actually pretty dang spacious inside it. If I was so inclined, I could almost do jumping jacks in here, but I am not so inclined. So it's not like a regular tent where you're going to be sleeping necessarily on the ground. Really, you would probably set up a cot in here. You could sleep on the ground if you wanted to, but it's used on the back of the SUV. So I think typically they're expecting you to be sleeping in the SUV, or like using this big area here for cots and stuff. So it's really not a huge deal, but this thing has the material on the inside and the netting on the outside. And I know that that can be a problem with some tents, collecting water, holding water in it, and eventually leaking. So I don't think that's going to be a huge deal here, just because of the type of tent that this thing is, but it could be an issue. But this thing zips down on both sides. Oh, that's as far as it zips down. It has these little toggles to hold it if you wanted to zip up the awning and roll the awning up. And it'll also roll up here like so. And it's got little toggles here to hold it up, or down, I guess you would say. So get that tucked together. Get this one tucked in there. Voila. Now you got some ventilation here, you got ventilation back there. We also can open this other side up and let this whole thing breathe. And this thing is plenty tall. Like, now I'm 5'7" on a good day. So if you're 6'1", you might be rubbing your head on the top of this thing. But for most people, I think this is still going to work out really good. It does have little vents on the corners here, so if you want to keep everything else zipped up and just have some ventilation, that would probably work. It doesn't have ventilation at the top up here, so you can't really open it up to get to all this mesh right here, which would be nice if you wanted to just have it opened up so you wouldn't have as much condensation inside it. But ultimately, with all this mesh, I think you're probably going to be okay. Plus, it doesn't pull completely tight across the top of the car. So that being the case, it's probably not going to be that big a deal anyway with condensation. But, time will tell. So we'll see how that works out. Let's go ahead and get that hitch mount and set it up, see how it looks. Alright, so this is just a wing and a prayer, guys. We don't know if this is actually going to fit or not. Fingers crossed it fits. I haven't even tried it yet, so you're going to find out when I find out if it actually will work. So, here we go. I can already see that it ain't gonna work. Oh, not even close. Dang it. Wah, wah, wah. Not even close. That's how it goes sometimes. Oh well. Well, all is not lost. So Sarah and I put our heads together and figured out something that may work. Still not 100% sure if we're going to do it or not, but this might work. So what we've done is pushed the whole thing, I unstaked it, pushed the whole thing forward just a little bit. So what we can do is we can actually just unzip one side of the awning pull out. And by doing that, it will allow my hammock to stick out the sides there. And if it starts to rain, like it's kind of starting to sprinkle a little bit now, I can always just drop the awning. I've got it rolled up now. Drop the awning out and stake it down. And that should be perfectly fine. So that being the case, this thing may actually work for us. But this is not what it was designed for, obviously. And other than that, this thing actually is pretty nice. So it does have taped seams on it. All the sewing and everything looks like it's done really well on here. Like I said, I'm not really doing a review on this thing, which I may do that in the future. But this is just kind of going through what we're going to try to use for the Georgia bushcraft trip. So it's taken a little finagling, but I think this is going to work for us. So pretty happy with this little setup. This thing is huge in here. And see, the thing is too, during the day, I take my hammock down, because if Sarah wants to get in and out of the car, it's a problem. So I take the hammock down there during the day. So if we needed to zip this thing up and close it up good, during the day we can go ahead and take the hammock down and close it up good. It's going to be pretty chilly up there, and we will never be using this thing in the summertime. So I'm not worried so much about, keeping the bugs out. It's more of a privacy thing, and keeping the wind off of us somewhat. But this thing will still be better than having just that tarp up over me, as far as from wind protection and things like that. So I know it's not exactly how this setup was designed, but if you have a little creativity and a smart wife, you can kind of figure stuff like this out. So I appreciate Sarah coming out here and going through it with me, because I can be a little overbearing sometimes when I get frustrated, and it was a little frustrating, but I think we've got it worked out, and I think it's going to work. So pretty happy with this. Alright guys, so this is why you try out all these crazy ideas ahead of time. Especially someone like me who is prone to not using things in the manner in which they were designed. So I think this is definitely going to work for us though. We've got a pretty good plan on how to use it, and I think it's pretty cool. The thing is enormous. There is still plenty of room on the other side of my hammock over there for us to set the cooler up, and a table, and the 2 chairs and all that stuff. We have all that set up under here. And the other nice thing about it is, if it gets cold to a point where we need to during the day, we could always zip everything back up and throw that little buddy heater in here and knock the chill off of it and keep it warm. So I don't think that it's going to get that cold on us up there. But who knows? You just never know sometimes. So I think we've got a pretty good plan. I'm pretty happy with this. it threw me a curveball. I'm not gonna lie, it threw me a curveball, but I definitely think this is a pretty cool little setup. And for Sarah to get this thing with this in mind, and it actually worked like this is pretty cool. So didn't exactly work the way she had it planned, but came pretty doggone close. So happy with the setup, and I guess we will see on our Georgia bushcraft trip how well it actually works out. So you guys will have to look forward to that one. And I hope you enjoyed this little video. I hope it gave you a little idea of what we're going to do for our Georgia bushcraft trip and for our road trip camping coming up. Should be a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So if you enjoyed this video, give it that big thumbs up for me. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down there and ring that notification bell so you get notified next time we put out a video. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next week.